Mortal Kombat was one of my favorite fighting games I've ever played growing up. And the first time I ever played it was in the small little arcade / pizza parlor. One I went to as a kid when I used to play sports, about the right side of the diner. And that game that I played was Mortal Kombat 4. And despite me losing to Raiden almost every single time I ever came across him, I still love that game. I had a blast with it, and it's probably one of the more bloody games I was ever even allowed to play. Because back then, I wasn't even allowed to play mature rated games until I was the actual rating I was supposed to, even though every other kid around me that I went to school with would always have games like God of War, Halo, like anything that's above the teen rating they were allowed to play, but I wasn't as a kid. But I'm 31 years old now, so I can do whatever I want. But enough of that. Of course, the reason why I'm talking about Mortal Kombat is because the most recent Mortal Kombat movie that came out last weekend has become a big hit, surprisingly both with critics and audiences, which is odd because when they first started this Mortal Kombat movie franchise, it was complete shit. I couldn't even be any more embarrassed to say that these films ever existed or to even acknowledge the fact that anyone ever tried to make these in the first place. But here we are. So let's talk about them for a second. So let's talk about the first Mortal Kombat movie from 1995. Now this was fresh in my mind after playing Mortal Kombat 4 in the arcade a few times, but was really surprised when I saw there was a PG-13 rating, so that meant none of the bloody violence that I was used to seeing in that game particularly was going to exist in this movie. I hated for that factor so much because I enjoyed playing that game so much because it was the only mature rated game I was ever allowed to play in an arcade or literally anywhere under the supervision of my parents. So this shitty movie was the only thing I had exposure to, and which sucks because it's part of the reason why I never enjoyed watching it. I never thought it was fun. I never thought it was anything. It was just a boring movie to me. Looking back at it now, I still feel the same way. The choreography isn't very fun to look at. Like, the fight scenes aren't very good. The production value is even worse. And you want to know what pissed me off the most? Was the casting for Raiden, played by Christopher Lambert. And I thought, really? This is who you choose as what this guy's supposed to look like? And you thought this was the best option? This is like, you know, when the first Super Mario Brothers movie and how they made the Goombas look nothing like from the original game? It was kind of like, I don't know what these things are supposed to be, but they're not Goombas. And I don't know what this guy's supposed to be, but he's not Raiden. And then they put a rice head on him just to justify, like, yeah, that's Raiden. It's like, fuck this movie. I swear to God. This is an embarrassing display of casting choices since Jack Black and King Kong. This is insane. Did you really even look at that and say, yeah, this is fine? But overall, the movie is just an embarrassment. And I know a lot of people would think that, well, it's just a bunch of fun fight scenes. It's not really that meant to be taken seriously. It's like, okay, fine. Let me just remind everybody something. Rumble in the Bronx came close to the same year that this movie did. So when you say the fight scenes were creative or fun, there are much better films with martial arts in it that are done much better. And I'm sorry, Mortal Kombat is not one of them. And what's funny about that is the one that comes after is somehow even worse than the other. Now, even for people who are fans of the first Mortal Kombat movie, even say the sequel is so much worse. Quite frankly, I couldn't agree more with that. The weird thing is too is that aside from the Asian guy who played as Liu Kang, they recast everyone else. They kill off Johnny Cage. They barely keep anything of what was from the original film, which honestly isn't that big of a thing to cry over because honestly, they both need to crash and burn anyway. The only thing good really that came out of either of these two films was was of course the theme song. It's catchy as fuck. And then 20 years later, we finally get the Mortal Kombat movie that people actually want to see, where it actually embraces and commits to the R rating that it should have done to begin with. It's bloody, it's gory, violent, it's actually not very bad choreographed, or at least a little bit better than the previous films. But it also created even new problems. The story and the characters are way too boring and forgettable, mostly because they're not really given time to perform their actual characteristics as what we know in the games, because it's trying to get through a sort of a checklist. Kind of similar issues to what the Mario movies are. Mortal Kombat has those same issues. It's going through a checklist and trying to make sure everything is in here. It has all the attributes of what the original games were known for, while also trying to be a movie. But at the same time, it's trying to be both, and it doesn't really mix very well. But at the same time, I don't really think it needed to be more than what it had to. If anything, my favorite part of the whole film is the opening with Hiroyuki Sanada playing Hanzo Asashi with his family before Sub-Zero comes in and kills them, and then he goes on a killing spree with a bunch of ninjas that come into his home and tries to kill him, and it creates this really awesome fight scene. The rest of the movie is just kind of like just kind of the slop you would expect from the Mortal Kombat series, but that's kind of what it's always been known for. It's just bloody, gory, just action sequences that lead into fight scenes, and it does, like I said, it doesn't need to be any more than that. And the sequel embraces it just as even more than it does in the previous one. And I think people like these films. I kind of have a liking towards them as well, because it actually embraces it. And while it might be better, but not by much, it doesn't need to be any more than it has to. And I think that's just what it needed to be in the first place. That's why it baffled me as to why those previous films that came out before were so liked, and I never understood why. But I think it's because they were hankering for these two films to be what they wanted to be back then. But that's all they had, and that's all they had to stick with. But now they've got two better versions of that, and I'm very happy for people that can actually finally get that. I just wish New Line Cinema wouldn't take this damn long to make it in the first place. A whole 30 years, and now they finally figured it out. It's ridiculous, but I guess it's better to figure it out now than later. And it looks like they're going to fully embrace it now, as they're already making the third one as we speak. So I'm pretty excited about it. I'm already expecting it to be just the fun, bloody mess that we all know and love. Just don't bring back the old bullshit, and we'll be fine.